In this video, I'm going to try to give you some tips on effective note-taking. In the file after this, I'll give you some more advice for using this or taking notes on research. I asked you to download and print the Cornell Notes PDF available above this file in your lesson section. So, if you didn't do that, time to go back now and get that done. Just like we want to integrate our sources, we want to assimilate and integrate all of our lessons. Simply finding an answer and giving it to me is more like report writing. And if you only look to memorize, then 1, you will likely forget it, and 2, you won't have a global understanding of it. For this, I'm going to give you a little lesson in Hegelian philosophy. Nothing big, single idea really, and it's nothing I'm going to test you on. We just need something to take notes on, so please take notes as we go. In front of you, you should have a blank sheet for Cornell note-taking. The column on the left is your Q column. If you're taking notes for a class, this is a good place for a question or some other phrase that gives the category for the notes. Something like causes of the Civil War, or why Robert E. Lee sided with Virginia, etc. The idea is when you're studying, you can use a book to cover the notes section and see if you can answer the items in the Q column. In the notes section, we obviously take notes. And in the summary section, you should summarize each page of notes as soon after class as you can, as a daily review of what you learned in class. If you're using this for taking notes on research in the Q column, I like to put my topics. If I'm writing about racism and incarceration rates, I would have items over here like background and causes of discrimination and consequences of discrimination and fixing discrimination. Those are pretty broad, but that's okay. If you have something more specific, then do that. When I was working on my dissertation, I kept the really broad categories. In the notes section, I gave page number first, then my note. If I thought I needed the exact quote, I put it here. If I thought paraphrase was fine, my first version of the paraphrase appears here. If I'm unsure, I include both. After that, I write my thoughts about how to use it, how it connects to other sources I've seen, or other ideas I have. If it gives me some questions I think will be important to answer my essay, I make notes of those and start to answer them. The more work you do now, the less work you'll have later. Also, by beginning to think about the ideas, you make later research more effective and it will go more quickly. The reason I put topics in the Q column is so I can easily find them when I'm either outlining my essay or when I'm writing the essay and I want to find the best possible thing from my notes for that section. Okay, for our lesson, take notes. This is Hegel. He's German. And he pioneered a way of thinking through a problem called the dialectic. This method later influenced Karl Marx. The thing about the dialectic is that it results in teleology, or the philosophical proposition of final causes in nature or human behavior. In other words, there's an end. Teleology is the study of ends. Human history for Hegel has a final outcome. There would be an end to history and we'd just be that way forever after. This is Derrida. He's French. He doesn't like teleology so much. He claims that it annuls the future by trapping it in a predictable sequence. In other words, he thinks teleology becomes self-fulfilling prophecy and that it's dangerous to real growth. For example, if you think your marriage has one outcome and only one outcome, then you become resistant and maybe even hostile to changes in yourself, in your partner, or in your relationship that don't match the teleological outcome. In other words, divorce and recrimination are in your future. Hopefully, you've been following along and taking notes. The question becomes, how did you decide what was noteworthy? You don't want to take notes on everything. That is much too time-consuming. You likely won't be able to keep up unless you have stenographer training. I bet most of you wrote down the names Hegel and Derrida. I bet you wrote a definition of teleology. Taking notes in class is wise to keep an eye open for things the instructor stresses. Saying something and writing it on the board both probably indicates importance. Definitions usually mean something. Repetition should catch our eyes. Remember, you want to engage the material, so try to keep your notes brief so that you can ask questions, both out loud and in your notes. Never ever turn off your brain. Questions are the product of a brain at work.